Okay, in this tutorial I'm going to talk about sex, but not the act of reproduction, but actually sex determination. So what makes us male or female? So sex in terms of gender. What makes us male and female? So, you remember we looked at karyotypes. I think in the last tutorial we looked at karyotypes, and I told you that every chromosome has a partner. There's a pair that is the same shape and size and carries a slightly different form of the same genes, an allele. So these pairs here are our homologous chromosomes that carry the allele, slightly different versions of the same gene. However, I did lie to you a little bit. What about these ones down the bottom here? What about these, the X and the Y? Alright, I lied, but only a little bit. If we look, we have one pair of chromosomes in our cells that aren't always the same shape and size. Shock horror. These are our sex chromosomes, and our sex chromosomes determine whether we are male or female. So females have two X chromosomes, XX, and it's these that make them develop into a female. So they're the same shape and size, and they carry different forms of the same genes. So this is basically, for a female, our statement was still true. Females have 23 pairs of chromosomes that match up, that are all the same. The pairs are always the same size, same shape, and have those different alleles. They have the same genes, or genes for the same thing on them. However, males have an X and a Y chromosome. So the X and the Y chromosome pair up during meiosis, even though they're not the same size. So the Y chromosome is actually slightly smaller and actually has fewer genes on it. It has much fewer genes than the X chromosome or most of the other chromosomes in the body. So the Y chromosome is a very little chromosome with only a few genes on it. So males develop into males because they inherit an X and a Y chromosome. So what actually determines our sex? Well, females always have an X chromosome, so their eggs will always carry an X chromosome. Now remember that our sex cells, the egg and sperm, always have one of each chromosome. So a female has two X chromosomes, so she can produce egg cells with either an X or the other X. Now we don't need to show that because they'll always have, either way, they'll have an X chromosome in it. Whereas a male can actually produce sex cells that either have an X or carry a Y chromosome. Now if this sperm carrying X chromosomes fertilizes this egg, we'll get a girl, XX. If this sperm carrying a Y chromosome fertilizes this egg, we'll get an XY, a boy. And this is why the chances are 50-50 of having a girl and a boy. Now actually there is some evidence that the odds are slightly higher of actually having a boy. And the reason that they believe that is that the Y chromosome is a little bit smaller, so these sperm cells here with the Y in them just might be that tiny little bit lighter, and that might mean that they have a slightly higher chance of getting to the egg cell first. However, even though there are slightly few, there's a slightly few or higher number of boys born each year, guys don't tend to live as long, so there are actually more females on the planet. Now guys, this is basically just a Punnett square. We've just chopped the other half off. I'll show you what I mean by that. So in this case, the male XY, and we're going to cross that with the female XX. Alright, so the male producing sperm cells with an X, or sperm cells with a Y. And we can do our Punnett square. Alright, the female producing egg cells that always have an X in them. And so here you can see if these two combine, we get an XX. If these ones combine, we get an XY. If these ones combine, XX. And if those ones combine, XY. So here, the egg cells at the top here, because they both have an X in them, these two columns are the same. So what they've done here is they just chopped one half off. But you can see here the top two are girls, the bottom two are guys. It's a 50-50 chance. This is really just a Punnett square again, showing what kind of combinations you can get in the offspring. So that's how our sex is determined. Whether we're male or female is all based on whether we inherit these X chromosomes, or for a guy, whether we get an X and a Y chromosome. In a few cases, this can get a bit messed up. A few people have a mixture of cells in their body. Some cells in their body have two X's, or maybe even only one X. And some people, and some of their other cells have an X and a Y. So some people actually have a condition where some of their cells are male and some of them are female. And they're often, we refer to that as someone who has an indeterminate sex. So they actually, indeterminate, you can't determine whether they're actually male or female. And what normally happens then is a choice is made whether the person wants to be male or female, and a bit of surgery. They often have features of both male and female genitalia, and so they'll correct that surgically so that they have just the one. They are, however, usually infertile. They usually don't produce functioning egg or sperm cells. Cool. So, guys, hope you found that interesting. But basically, this is how it's decided whether you are male or female.